Council Agent, Senior Citizen, Senior Center. And, you know, a lot of y'all, I'm looking at a lot of people out there. I got to talk to a few people before the program started and setting up. A lot of y'all know me as Coach Parker. Coach Parker, I was at the high school for 18 years. I finished up 4 years ago and I retired. 30 years service with our school system. But 30 years ago, I was Lieutenant Parker. And I went into the Army. And I started off in college, like the speaker before me said, started off in the ROTC, and I signed a contract my sophomore year. And that's the main part of my speech. When you sign that dotted line, you gotta do your time and you gotta serve your country. And when you sign your dotted line, I tell all the young kids, when you sign the dotted line, that might mean not only you gotta serve your country, you gotta go fight for your country. So before you sign, you got to understand that. You got to understand that because when you just scribbling your name on that paper, you got to understand that as a that you're gonna be a soldier that might have to go fight for your country, and it might be in a foreign land. Okay, I started off in the ROTC. I graduated, and I didn't know I was gonna be an All-American football player. That happened, and I was like, oh boy, I go play some pro football. But guess what? You done signed the dotted line. You got to go do this 8-year commitment. And what I had was 3 years active, that's every day, and 5 years on call. So I had an 8-year commitment. So I had to go serve, fight for my country and serve it. I was a tank platoon leader. I was over tanks, and a tank is a very powerful vehicle. Tank is about 30 tons, think about 20 or 30 cars. That's what it weighs. One car weighs about 4 tons, and a tank weighs 60 tons, and it's fast. It can go about 60 miles an hour. And you know, I really enjoy my tanks because I didn't have to fly and get blew out the air. I didn't have to be in the boat and get my boat sink. I didn't even have to walk on the ground and maybe get my leg blew off. So I love my tanks, but I got a lot of respect. And I put them up here: the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marines. I got a lot of respect for them, but I love my tanks in the Army. I love my tanks in the Army. I started off at Fort Hood, Kentucky. Now, Fort Hood, Kentucky, I did my training for 5 months and becoming an officer, teaching me how to be a better officer, and that's where they keep the gold at. That's where the United States keep all their gold. So if you ever go to, they got a big old place where they keep all the gold in Fort Knox. So I got to see that. Some of the temperatures was like 12 below zero. So me coming from Louisiana, ooh, that was cold. And then they shipped me to Fort Hood after that. And Fort Hood is like the biggest base that in the United States. Because they got the tanks in Fort Hood, so all the roads are a little wider. So I did my time at Fort Hood. About a year into me serving, I find out you finna go to war. I say, okay. They give us 4 weeks to get your platoon ready. Y'all finna deploy and go to Saudi Arabia, go to Iraq. And the lady that's doing my filming for me right here, she tell me 4 days before I leave, she say, I'm 2 months pregnant. I'm like, God dog. So once again, you done signed that dotted line, but guess what you gotta do? You gotta go fight for your country. Now, one thing I always wanted kids, but I was like, really don't wanna go, because I don't wanna leave my wife to go through this pregnancy by herself. But I got to go. I gotta go serve and fight for my country. And she had a good workforce support staff at her job that really helped her out, and she wrote me letters. And you know, it was tough, but you know, it was what I had to do. Now, one thing I did when I was over there fighting, we did a lot of training at night because our tanks could see at night. We had night vision sights, and so we did a lot of training at night. The Air Force went in and bombed Iraq 21 days before we actually fought the ground battle. That tremendously helped us out. So when we went over, They didn't even want to fight. A lot of them didn't want to fight because the Air Force had bombed them for 21 days. We fought for 4 days, and it was over, and we got a ceasefire. And you look at the conveniences of home. You look at just the chair you're sitting in. You look at the air conditioning we have right now. You look at the meal that y'all gonna eat for lunch, maybe a hot meal. You know, when you look in that desert, I could see sand and it just would never run out. It's like going out in the ocean on a cruise. You just see water and it never run out. When I looked at it, you just see sand. And then you look way off in the distance, because it don't rain in the desert. It'd be like 112, and you see that sandstorm coming. And you be like, that's a sandstorm. You got to go get shelter, because a sandstorm is like rain in the desert. It's going to put sand on everything. And you're going to have to clean up your hat. You're going to have to knock the sand off your hat. You're probably going to have sand in your underwears. All your equipment going to have sand on it. You're going to have to clean that up again. So they have sandstorms in the desert. My soldiers, for entertainment, they would get scorpions, and they would make the scorpions fight each other. And I'll be like, y'all stop that. One of them scorpions gonna get loose and fight y'all. But that's their entertainment. And newspaper and radio, wasn't no TV, wasn't no going to a football game. The entertainment was reading the newspaper and listening to the radio. You know, we did have hot meals a couple times for Christmas and Thanksgiving, but we had to eat the MREs, and that's meals ready to eat, and that's dry food. So, you know, and that was tough. You know, my wife was pregnant, so I was over there for 7 months, and I really, just being truthful with everybody, I was training my soldiers so hard. I had 21 soldiers and I had 6 tanks. Tanks cost about $2 or $3 million. And I was training them hard because I had to get back home to my wife. But the reality is, I might not get home. So what I started doing, I started writing letters to my unborn kid. And I write, kid, I want to talk to you today about respecting people. Kid, I want to talk to you today about racism. Kid, I want to talk to you today about getting along, your attitude, education. And probably was about 100 letters when we all finished. And when I got back from the military, me and my wife, we put all those letters together and we wrote a book. And the name of the book is A Father's Thought to His Unborn Child During Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield. And I think my grandma looked at my rough draft, and my grandmother said, you need to get this published. This is some good stuff. This is some good stuff in this book. And we got it published, and I think I sold 1,000 copies about 20 years ago. And, you know, real positive book on this is how a father gonna tell his child something just in case he don't get to see his child. And I didn't know it was gonna be a boy or girl at the time, but I think it was something real good. Like I said, respect all those branches. The Marines breached our minefield. The Air Force bombed them for 21 days. The Navy sent in artillery on our enemy. That helped me survive. So it's a competition. Oh yeah, I'm Army. I respect them all. Army, Navy, Coast Guard, the space program, Marines. I respect them all. We all got to work together when we go fight for our country so we can survive, okay? But 4 days into that ground battle, we get ceasefire. And you talking about making me feel so good when I got that ceasefire to walk over. It was like a calm. I still had to stay over there 1 more month before we got back to the United States. But I still remember getting back to the United States and just touching the grass. Just, you know, grass. Just touching it, because I hadn't touched grass in 7 months. Air conditioning. Eating a Whopper. You know, fast food. Just something like that is so important when it gets taken away. Hot water. when it get taken away from you for a while, you really appreciate it. You know, you really appreciate it, the conveniences. Me and the wife, she was 9 months pregnant when I got back. We went to Lamar's class, and they like, okay, relax, breathe, breathe. I never could make it through a Lamar's class. Because when I was doing our relaxing and breathing, I was falling asleep. And everybody laughing at me like, he's sleeping. And I start snoring. Well, you got to think, I've been going, probably 16, 17, 18 hours a day for 7 months. And now I get back to the United States, my wife finna have a baby. We go to Lamar's class, they telling me to relax and breathe. Oh, I relaxed, all right. I relaxed right to sleep. And when we go into the living room, the doctor say, oh, you're a big guy. You're a real big guy. You know, some of them big guys, they pass out. I said, man, you don't know the stuff I done seen. But look here, if I pass out, wake me up so I can see the rest of it. You know, that's all. And, you know, when you're